Welcome to
Ruff Draft Podcast.
Ruff Draft Podcast.
Ruff Draft Podcast.
The Ruff Draft Podcast.
the Ruff Draft Podcast.
Ruff Draft Podcast. Welcome to the Ruff Draft Podcast.
The Ruff Draft Podcast. Welcome to the Ruff Draft Podcast.
Ready to turn the rough drafts of today into the masterpieces of tomorrow? Let's get started.
Welcome to the Ruff Draft Podcast. Today, we're going to look at a neat tool and kind of talk about our opinions of it, what we've used it for, in some ways you might could use it in the classroom. And that tool is Notebook LM, which is a dynamic tool for enhancing teaching.
I have to admit that, and you already know this about me, Stacey, that I'm all about AI, about how to make the process easier. I was very impressed and found this out by accident, actually, when you contacted us one day to find out if it was active for our domain, and we looked into it and we turned it on, and it was probably a week or two later before I ever even tried it out, but very surprised and very impressed with what it can do.
Yes, definitely a cool tool. So we're going to share just some things that other people are saying about it before we get into exactly what it's capable of. So here's a few quotes from Wall Street Journal. It's one of the most compelling and completely flabbergasting demonstrations of AI's potential yet. I would agree with that one.
Oh, me too. Like I said, the few times that I've used it, I've just been so amazed at what it's capable of.
Yeah. A channel on YouTube that's Hard Fork said, Notebook LM completely blew our mind.
I can see that.
Yeah, I feel like that one for you for sure. And then CNBC said this could be the next killer app in generative AI.
I think the fact that it's incorporated into the ecosystem of Google makes it so much more seamless that it's not something extra that you have to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So let's try to first help the listeners understand what Notebook LM if they're not familiar with it. So this is a quote straight from Google, the creator. Notebook LM is an AI research assistant that uses Google's Gemini 1.5 Pro model to help users understand complex information, such as summarizing documents, answer questions, create interactive media, and explain complex ideas, which all of those things, Mike, I feel like don't even hit on your favorite part of the tool.
No, it doesn't. But that means that it's a very comprehensive tool. And I like how anytime you read about AI or there's a description about AI, they talk about how it's a digital assistant. And that actually is probably the best way to sum this up, as well as things like ChatGPT.
For sure. So since this is newer to you than it is to me, I know you played around with it a little bit before Christmas break. So can you just kind of share your initial thought on it and what have you used it for?
Well, literally, pure amazement. You were telling me about it, and I went into the interface and found a place where you could drop in text and have it create basically a podcast, but at minimum a conversation between two people. I had created a document a few months ago, actually it's probably been 6 or 8 months ago, about a think tank group that we had started here at Clyde to work through technology, and I kind of defined what the purpose of the group was and some of the supporting documentation and some surveys that went along with it. And I had about 4 pages of description that I copy and pasted into Notebook LM, and it created a discussion between two people. I wish I'd had a portion of it queued up, but it sounds just like a talk show or a discussion group, and it easily was. It was 27 minutes long. Easily could have been dropped in as a podcast because everything in it was accurate, because it was based on a document that was created by me or created by the district. So it was very impressive. The voices are real. It's like you and I talking, just two different people, and it was very, very engaging, and like I said, it was very accurate based on the document that was created.
Which is crazy because I feel like usually when you hear an AI voice, you can kind of tell.
Oh, absolutely.
Siri, Amazon Alexa, I mean, they have a very distinct voice, but you can usually kind of tell it's somewhat robotic. And these, it's a male and a female, and it sounds just like two regular people having a conversation. And it's crazy to me how fast it spits it out.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, within minutes, you've got this, what could be a full episode.
I bet it didn't take 5 minutes to create it. It took, I'm used to the 30 seconds or 15 seconds that ChatGPT creates a document. But this spit out something in about 5 minutes. And as it started to chug through and process, I thought, well, this is going to take a while. And before I knew it, the result was up. And literally, I was amazed. I mean, really, really impressive voices. You know, I kind of pictured that when technology goes from that robotic sounding voice straight to normal conversation, that I missed out on some technology somewhere because there was no in between. It went straight to conversational discussion between, and I think one of the characters was female and one of the characters was male, and I could not have told you they were generated.
Yeah, for sure. You'd have no idea without looking at it. And like I said, I had seen it before. We actually got access to it. I had seen it, and I didn't know. That's why you said that I asked you guys if it was turned on, because there's a lot of Google features that we can enable or disable. And so I wanted to see if it was turned on because I couldn't access it. But I had actually seen it on social media even before that. And it was a clip of this nursing student, and she took her actual notes as she was preparing for a test. She uploaded them, her Google Doc or whatever, and it generated this little episode. And she was fact-checking it, and she was comparing it to her notes, and like you said, it was spot on from what she had input. And then she had this, little podcast episode that, like you said, it wasn't very long. I think most of them don't go over maybe 25 minutes at the max. But then she could still be studying, and she could go for a walk, or, she could be in her car going to the grocery store rather than just looking at your computer or looking at handwritten notes. And so that was kind of the first time I had seen it, and I was like, this is really cool if it actually does that. And after playing with it, I think that you and I both would agree that it definitely surpassed expectations.
And I've not used it for that, but let me ask two questions. One is, when she uploaded it, when she copy and pasted it in, did it enhance the information she put in? Did it add to it?
That's hard to say, just because, like I said, it was on social media and not somebody I know personally, but in my experience with it, I feel like, yes, it's like,
I know it did in my document.
How did they know that? I didn't give that example, but it's right. That makes sense. But that wasn't in, the brief input that I gave you.
And the reason I'm asking that question is, for years, I've wanted to take documents and drop them into a platform that would give text to voice so you could listen while you're driving or while you're riding a bike or working out. So this would be a great way to get that information. And the reason I asked about if it enhanced it at all is sometimes you just want it to tell you what the content is and not try to fill in blanks. So yeah, exactly. So I mean, just think about all the text, all the written text that you could drop into a notebook and then have it read it back to you so that you could do other things at the same time.
Absolutely. So let's kind of talk about some practical applications for educators, ways that they could use this tool. So first, do you think that teachers could integrate Notebook LM into their daily routines?
Yes. I mean, just for the same thing that I used it for, I think you could create a discussion, an engaging discussion between two people over a subject that is being discussed in class, especially if it is accurate. I mean, obviously, it doesn't matter what AI tool you use. You should always fact check it.
Absolutely.
Make sure that it's accurate. Make sure that it's giving you the information or giving someone else the information that you intend. The discussion that I created out of that one 4-page document, I've listened to it twice because some of the information on there built on what we had intended and made it even much better. So yeah, I could see how you could create an engaging discussion for students in a class.
Yeah. So my first idea with this, I guess I'll say, is that I feel like there's a lot of literature used in, I'm just going to use high school as an example here, that maybe a novel that they're reading as a class, and sometimes the theme of that book maybe doesn't resonate with the students, And so I had the idea, well, maybe you Notebook LM it, and you can do it by chapter for the entire book. But maybe for some of your kids who didn't understand exactly what the point of it was, create that engaging conversation, let them listen to it, even if it's, hey, this is there if you need it, kind of differentiate a little bit and give another option of resources, I guess.
Well, I mean, if you take other models, chat models like ChatGPT, and you can change the context in which the information is provided, you could change it for a different grade level. You could make it simpler. You could make it comedic. You could add some detail to it that makes it more interesting to students if it seems to be pretty dry content. So yeah, I mean, if you can mold it into whatever you need to make it more engaging, then it's going to be an awesome option.
I agree. And you kind of bring up a good point with Chat GPT. So I feel like when people hear about this, if they're not familiar with it, they're going to say, why would I use Notebook LM when we've got Magic School or we've got Chat GPT? What's the benefit of going to this site?
Well, to me, it's almost as if it knows what you want, and that's why they call them predictive models. But it gives you the option to create something that it believes you're asking for. Now, sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes it hallucinates. Sometimes it's not accurate. But the fact that it can fill in the gaps or make it more engaging means that you don't necessarily have to be a prompt engineer to get the output that you want, because in some of the models, you have to be real specific or it'll get off track. Right. Whereas this one, if you can drop in a document or a research paper or something that you've already started working on, it's got some direction, and I think this gives you the capability of doing some enhancements to documents or to discussions that would be a little more complicated in something like ChatGPT.
Right. That's exactly what I think. And, definitely if you're looking for the podcast element of it, that's something that those other two are not doing currently. Now, they may get there, and I know Magic School for the student side does have the podcast outline tool, but it's not actually generating that conversation where you can listen to it right away. Yeah. So that's very unique to this tool. So what challenges do you think teachers face that Notebook LM can help solve?
I think that for sure it can help the teacher create lessons that may be more engaging or enhanced to make the students more attentive to the subject. I think it provides an option for teachers to show students how they can make their documents more engaging and help with research. If I understand it correctly, Notebook LM has the capability of doing deeper dives. Right. that you may be giving it part of the information on, but can help enhance. Now, that could work for the teacher or it could work for the student. But if the teacher knows how this works, then they can better accept or better review student work to make sure that their students aren't using it just as a crutch.
Right. No, I think that definitely is crucial, in terms of making things more engaging. I know a lot of students check out if they're not engaged with what's going on in class. So I think for sure the big things are it can save you time, like you can generate that in a matter of minutes. Now you've got this really engaging piece and you could play that clip during class. And now that's taking up part of your class time, or like I said, if it's just going to be kind of a supplement, if kids need the extra piece, maybe you post it in Google Classroom. But either way, that's saving you time from having to go and actually create the resource on your own. And then, we talked about differentiation, maybe for kids who they're just not getting it. Maybe they need that visual piece rather than just reading the book. I think it's really cool, but definitely very big with engagement.
Well, and I think that analysis also, I know that you can ask chat models also questions and have them basically give an opinion to analyze something. And you could do that with a novel, you could do it with a paper, you could do it with research, and it could be a discussion starter. You don't have to assume that everything that comes out of these tools is correct. And you can ask it a question or have the student ask it a question, and based on its response, have a classroom discussion on whether that's accurate or whether you agree or whether you disagree.
Right, and I think that goes for most all generative AI.
Yep.
There's a lot of chatbots for historical figures and things like that out there that kind of simulate that conversation. You're obviously not talking to a deceased president, but it's very cool to, like you said, just open up that conversation. We are going to kind of walk through how you would use Notebook LM. So we're just going to be doing an example today, and we are going to post this recording onto YouTube. That way people can kind of follow along with it. So to find Notebook LM, it's notebooklm.google. Like we said, this is a Google created tool. So that is just the website that you'll go to. For purposes of what we're going to do today, I am going to be grabbing a document just off of our school website. So down at the very bottom is our TIA handbook for this school year. So I'm going to click on that and just go ahead and download it. And then back in Notebook LM, it first has you on an overview. There is Notebook LM Plus. Right now, Notebook LM is free. I'm sure that's not going to be that way forever, but for now it is. So as you scroll down, immediately it tells you this is an AI research assistant, which is kind of what we talked about. So you can upload your own sources, which is what we're going to be trying today. I'm going to be uploading a PDF, but you can also put in a website link, a YouTube video, audio file, Google Doc, anything like that. You get instant insights, see the source, not just the answer, which I think is something that not all AI tools are doing currently. I know ChatGPT will sometimes show you where it got a source from, and you can click on it, but they don't all do that. So that's very unique, and then listen and learn on the go. So again, you can create that episode and then listen to it without having to be looking at your computer. So we are going to just kind of be playing with this today. I'm going to hit try Notebook LM. And then you can see that it's saved past notebooks that I've created, but we're going to go ahead and create a new one. And then you can upload source, you can pull from your drive link, or you can just paste in text. So it doesn't have to be an actual file. But we are going to pull from downloads, and then you can see that that's processing over here. So I can add another source, which I think is really cool. It doesn't have to just necessarily be from one. If I have a file, maybe like I had to write a paper over, I can link to whatever we wrote over. I can add my Google Doc. You can have your PDF. So I think that that's really cool that you can have multiple sources in there.
If you're having to write a paper and you need multiple sources, I mean, being able to drop all those in is valuable.
Mm-hmm. And you can see now that we've given it a second to finish loading that document, it changed the name. So a while ago it said untitled, and now it's pulling from the document that I actually uploaded. So I went ahead and named this notebook for me. So you can add notes to it, you can save the note, I can copy what it is giving me here in the text. This is just kind of a summary of what that document is. So if I just want to summarize it, I could copy that. I can type in other things. So if I want to ask it, the AI, a question, I can ask a question, just start typing here. It's giving me prompts as well. So if I really like this question, I can click on it, and then you can see the AI is working to start answering that question that pertains to the document that I uploaded. Give it a second, and then look, it's showing me what page it got that answer from, which is really cool.
You know, at first I didn't know what those numbers were for.
Yeah. So you know, if you want to look this up, that it's factual if you do want to go in and fact check it. But it shows me every page that it got those answers from. So I think that that's really cool. But again, you can ask your own question, or I can scroll and see what other questions it's suggesting for me. And then same thing, just within a matter of seconds, it's there. So when we are ready, if we are wanting that audio piece of it to make kind of, like we said, a podcast episode, then over here you can see where it says deep dive conversation, 2 hosts, English only. I haven't really played around with the customized audio feature, but you can do that and tell it to focus specifically that conversation on a particular piece. So if it was like, we want to focus specifically on how much money teachers can get at the different levels of TIA, we could put that here.
And that'd be nice, because there may be a large document that you're dealing with or that you're working on, and you do want to focus just on particular areas.
Mm-hmm. Or again, if you were uploading a book, you could tell it, hey, we want to focus specifically on the theme here.
True.
I'm going to go ahead and close that, and we're just going to hit generate, and it tells you right away. It might take a few minutes. Again, that's going to be kind of depending upon how big the file size of the document is, or if you're linking how many pages that website has. But it does say that there's no need to stick around. So I don't have to have this tab open for it to continue working. If you want to load it and then go check your email and come back to it, it's still going to be processing.
How many of these have you generated, do you think?
This is actually only my 3rd one.
And I wondered, because I've only done the one, and was very impressed, but I was curious about how long it was taking. I know the one that I created ended up being 27 minutes long, and I would say it generated in less than 5 minutes. So yeah. I don't have a good feel for how long it takes to generate.
Right.
I know this one's been about 45 seconds so far, just because I was
While
looking at
it's
my watch
doing
to
that,
see.
I can kind of go back and show So this was one I did before we got out for Christmas about some Google Workspace updates. And so I just kind of loaded in. This one was actually a website. But again, you can see the summary that it's giving me. I didn't ask it any questions, and I actually did not generate a conversation for this one. But I could always go back and do that because it saved it since I'm signed in with my Google. So that's nice. And then this one, I actually already did the incentive allotment handbook just because I wanted it to be something that was local to us. And this was the first notebook I actually sent you.
Oh, okay.
And so I don't know if you remember, you started listening to it. And I think you actually played it for a few people in the district and tried to ask them whose voice it was, and they were trying to guess, and you're like, no, it's AI. So
people didn't understand or didn't believe what I was saying because no one's used to those voices being natural sounding.
Right. Like we said, it usually sounds somewhat robotic. So I'm going to go ahead and just play this last one, and then we can kind of compare since I did the same document twice. But this first one I did, it's 12 minutes and 54 seconds for this document. So let's just play a little bit of this clip so they can see what it sounds like.
All right, let's dive in. We're tackling the Clyde CISD Teacher Incentive Allotment Handbook today, TIA for short. It's a big one, folks.
Definitely a deep dive.
We're talking about how teachers, students, and even the whole district could be affected. And this handbook, it's like our guide. It shows exactly how Clyde CISD wants to attract those awesome teachers, keep them around, and maybe even, get this, help some hit a six-figure salary.
It's not just talk either. They're putting real effort into rewarding teacher effectiveness. And with TIA, it's more than a pat on the back, you know. They're connecting how teachers do with how much students are learning. That's a game changer.
You're kidding.
I think that's crazy.
Like I said, it sounds like two people that were either hired or two professionals that are having that discussion. And it's
so
based, customized to your organization. And all that from that document, that exact text is not typed in specifically. It was created through AI.
Which is very cool. And so once you have a clip or something, even just the chat that you want to share, you can come up here to the share options. And so since I'm signed in with my Google and this is a Google tool, you can actually just add in people here and they'll get an email about it, or you can copy the link and you can share it. And so that's what I had done. I had just texted it, I think, to you, or maybe I emailed it. I don't really remember. But you can change it so that multiple people have access to this particular notebook. So also could kind of be, you know, a group project. Maybe you have several students working, and so they're all going to add sources and things like that, but they're going to turn in one episode. And so I think that could be something unique as well.
And can that be edited once you've uploaded that document, can you edit the I was curious.
Yes. So I even though I already have that, I can still add more notes. I can still ask it questions here. I can still add sources. And all of that good stuff. And then
well, that would be an excellent collaborative tool if you think about it, because you can have multiple people type up. Well, for that matter, you could have a classroom of students type up documents and submit them all and have it analyze the entire collection of documents.
That'd be very cool.
Nice.
So I am going to hop back over and just see that one is still generating. So like we said, it does sometimes take a minute, but I'm very interested to see if this one's longer or shorter. You know, we gave it the same document twice. I did ask this one a few questions, which is different from, there it goes, live. So this one is 26 minutes and 50 seconds.
And I'm going to say that took about 5 minutes too.
And so I will go through, and I do want to listen to it and just kind of compare notes of why this one is so much longer, what more did they talk about. And like I said, it may be because I asked it these specific questions having to do with the money and things like that. And so I think that's kind of interesting. I'm going to have to go through and compare. But again, you're not getting the same output every time just because you use the same document. So you can give kids, hey, I want you to use this source, but they're going to ask it different questions, and it's going to give them a different output every time. So I think that's pretty unique as well.
And I know with the chat models also, that the generative models, that you can go in and as you're having the chat, type in additional prompts to control the output that it's already created. I haven't tried it yet, but I will. But I'm assuming you could go in there and say, okay, I need this to be no more than 15 minutes long.
Right.
And then it would recreate it and crop it to 15 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, I haven't played with that very much either. I just always kind of see what it gives me. But I do think that would be kind of cool as well. If you're like, I definitely don't want it to be longer than 10 minutes. Or if you're going to listen to several per class, you may want it to be even shorter than that. Maybe it's just a little 5-minute clip, but definitely up to the teacher discretion. But that was just kind of a quick little step-by-step guide of how to use it. There obviously are multiple different uses of it. We just kind of both have fallen more towards the podcast element of it, I feel like. So different things out there for different people depending on how you want to use it. But I definitely think it's a great tool for everyone to go and check out, teachers, students, even parents, I feel like. And my suggestion would be don't start with something that you want to use in class. I would suggest find something fun or, just kind of play with it and do something silly first. And then you can kind of figure out how to make it relatable to school. I feel like that's kind of the best way for me to learn things is to do it in a fun way first.
And I think in any AI tool, it's a great way to do it. I was speaking with someone over the weekend about AI and some of the things it would do, and I was explaining what Notebook LM would do, and they had never used AI before. And I was explaining that start with the simple stuff, ask it simple questions, and expand on it. Then move to uploading information or documents or things that you want to expand on. So baby steps. Start small and build and just see what it's capable of. Because I'm going to tell you, when I started with ChatGPT, I started out pretty simple, but it didn't take long to realize this will do much more than I expected. And Notebook, being able to incorporate or to upload entire documents it's just invaluable. I mean, that gives you the capability of analyzing huge amounts of data, or at least huge amounts of data to us, to enhance. I used to think Grammarly was the cat's meow.
I did too.
But I'm going to tell you what, this goes way beyond what Grammarly can do. So very, very powerful tool.
Yes, exactly. And it's so incredible. Like, all the quotes we talked about at the beginning, it's next level generative AI. And I think it is going to be one of the biggest tools for this year. So I definitely suggest everybody listening and tell a friend about it. If they're not listening, send them the link and just try it out. And maybe you try it, like we said, try something fun first and then try it, incorporate it into a lesson and ask your kids what they think about it, or maybe you guys create one together so that they can learn how it works as well. But definitely a really incredible tool to go and check out. So, so that's all for today. Thank you for listening, and we will chat with you next week. Thank you for listening to the Ruff Draft Podcast,
where we dive deep into the challenges facing K-12 education today.
From funding disparities and overcrowded classrooms to the growing pressure on teachers
and the evolving need for students, we explore the real issues that shape our schools. Whether it's the fight for equitable resources, the impact of standardized testing, or the struggle to meet the diverse needs of learners,
we are here to bring the conversation to the forefront.
Join us as we unpack the critical topics and brainstorm solutions to build a better future for education.